Hi everyone. So I've been doing quite a few episodes of Heartbeats and Horsepower lately, and I'm going to be filming another one today as well. And I realised I hadn't actually done a proper review of the Fireblade. I mean, it gets lots of attention. Lots of people like the look of the blade, and you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, of course it's not. But I thought I haven't actually done a full review of it, so I'll do that now, and I'll talk about the bike. I'll tell you everything that I know about the bike, some of its key features, and then I'll take you for a ride and I'll explain how it feels riding. A little bit noisy where I am. Hopefully the wind is not too bad, and I'll try and pause when a car goes past, but hey, that's the nature of trying to film in public, right? So what can I tell you? It is a 998cc, so for all intents and purposes 1000cc engine, inline 4, liquid cooled. It makes a claimed 177 brake horsepower, and that was obviously claimed by Honda. That is the crank number. I've mentioned in a previous video the difference between the claimed horsepower at the crank and then what you actually get at the wheel. So compared to some of its competitors, even of its age, because this is a 2009, it's not the most powerful bike. You know, there are the Yamaha R1, I think, was at least 180 horsepower, but that difference is negligible, really. It's obviously 6-speed. It's got a slipper clutch. There's no technology really on this bike at all. There is no traction control, no wheelie control, no fly-by-wire throttle, no quick shifter. It is as raw and as analog as good old-fashioned late 2000s sports bikes were. Honda were quite late to the party when it comes to fitting things like quick shifters and so on, but I sort of like that actually. I'm a bit of a fan of old analog sports bikes, and that's not because I dislike modern technology or that I dislike traction control, wheelie control. I've said before I think it's necessary, but I just love the rawness of this bike. So it's got a 17-litre fuel tank. It has fully adjustable front forks, so you can adjust the preload, the compression rebound, and you can also adjust the rebound damping. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of adjustment that you can make in the suspension. The rear shock the same. You can adjust the preload, you can adjust the compression and rebound damping and so on. So you can really get this bike set up for you and your rider weight, and that's always advisable. Whenever you get a bike, get the suspension set up. A good suspension setup can really transform a bike. So what else can I tell you? It has it's got LED lights now because I've fitted LED lights. It's got the old halogen headlights, but I've changed those just to make it look a little bit brighter on the front end. It has Showa big piston forks on the front. The brake discs, I've changed the brake discs, so I've put EBC wavy discs on the front for a little bit more stopping power, and I use double H sintered pads. The exhaust that I've put on here is a Leo Vinci end can, so it doesn't have a full system, so the exhaust is standard except for the end can, and the hugger that I've put on there is not standard on this particular year model. So what else can I tell you? Technical specs. The weight is about 210 kilograms wet, so it's a good old decent size sports bike. But having said that, that is really deceiving, like most bikes. The weight when you're stood still compared to when you're moving, obviously when you're moving it feels really nimble, really light. It's an amazing bike to ride, and of course what stands out the most is that it is the Repsol livery, the MotoGP replica of its age, and in my opinion it is the best looking MotoGP replica that has ever been. And yes, that's my opinion, some people might disagree, but I absolutely think it's gorgeous. What else have I done to the bike? I've put ASV levers on there. ASV levers are fantastic. I've put rental race grips. I've mentioned most of these before, so I won't go into much detail. I've put R&G crash protection on there, R&G frame guards. I've put some aftermarket pegs just to give me a little bit more feel and control. And that really is about it. I mean, I haven't done anything performance wise because I don't think you need to. I mean, I don't ride on track. If I was chasing lap times, then maybe I might look at gearing, power commanders, a remap, you know, things like that. But just for riding on the road, it has got all the power that I need. What else can I tell you about it? The feel of it, and I'll describe more about this when I actually go out and do a ride. The feel is just fantastic. The amount of confidence that this bike inspires, but that's not to be taken lightly, however, or not to be taken for granted, because it is a Lita sports bike. It will bite you in the ass if you're not careful, but it is easy to ride at slow maneuvers. It's easy to sort of ride at speed, relatively speaking, and what I'm talking about is it feels planted at speed. It feels really stable, especially in the corners. The front end feels like it is sticking to the road. Obviously tyres make a big difference in that as well. The tyres that I've got are Michelin Pilot Power 2CTs. I've used them for a very long time and I absolutely love them. There are, of course, better tyres out there, but for value for money, the price point of Michelin Pilot Power 2CTs now is fantastic. So really great tyres for an amazing price. Maybe I will upgrade to, I don't know, Power 5s, Power 6s at some point in the future. So yeah, that is the Honda Fireblade. I don't know what else I can tell you about it other than maybe to jump on it, go for a ride and describe to you how it feels. So if anybody has any questions about the Fireblade, just let me know. But now let's take it for a ride. Okay, so let's take this lovely machine for a spin and I will describe what it feels like and tell you more about it. The sound is awesome. The Fireblades have quite a deep rasp to the exhaust note. Now I don't know how well the camera is picking up that sound, and yes, the end can makes a difference as well. I'm not running a baffle. So yeah, like I said, the Fireblade, it does inspire a lot of confidence. It's really easy to ride in around town at slow speeds, and it is relatively comfortable for a sports bike. Now yes, of course, it's a sports bike, so you're going to be leant forward over the tank, and naturally after a while you will get some aches and pains. I've just realised my leather's is still open, so you will get aches and pains after a while, depending on your posture, depending on your riding position. There are things that you can do to minimize those things, and that includes setting up your levers so that your wrists aren't bent backwards, and it includes making sure that you hold on with your legs and your core muscles as opposed to your arms, staying relaxed in the shoulders and the upper body and the neck. But generally speaking, it is a relatively comfortable sports bike, even though compared to, say, my friend's S1K and compared to some Ducati sports bikes, the bars are quite narrow, quite a racy, tight racy position. And but I think that helps. It helps because, you know, you are leant over the front, which is exactly what you need on a sports bike. You need to be over the front because the front end feel is what it's all about. Front end grip is where all your confidence is going to come from. I've got an itchy nose. Hate it when that happens. And generally speaking, and I've heard a lot of people say this even before I bought a Fireblade. This is my second Fireblade, and it was the same with the CBR1000rr, that the front end was really planted. Now, I've mentioned earlier about the tyres. Yes, the tyres make a difference, and when you get some heat into your tyres and you can feel that grip, then this bike just wants you to throw it into the corners. It wants you to lean. it wants you to brake heavily. Now in terms of power, I mentioned that it has 177 brake horsepower, which doesn't sound a lot these days, quite the opposite. But I'm in 6th gear now, I'm just cruising along. If I just roll on the throttle, and then before you know it, you've overtaken a few cars. Now if I drop it down, say to 3rd, and do the same, the power builds really predictably. It's really smooth, as you would expect from an inline 4. I'm going to come off the dual carriageway just because of the wind noise. The brakes are just as you would expect from standard brakes, albeit, like I said, that I've just missed my turning. Bloody hell, I'm talking and I'm not paying attention. The brakes are okay. There's a lot you can do to upgrade your brakes. Obviously discs and pads is one thing. Steel braided lines I've put on as well. I forgot to mention that earlier, so I've fitted steel braided lines. And you can upgrade your master cylinder, and there's a lot of expensive mods you can do to your brakes, but these standard-ish brakes, apart from the levers and the discs and pads, so maybe not standard then, right? They're really good. They're, again, predictable. The level of braking you get is predictable. I never have a scary moment on the brakes. I know exactly how much braking power I've got in relation to the conditions. And that's front and rear as well. Obviously the rear brake is just an aid, but I said to a friend of mine, actually, Dino bought his first Fireblade, and I said to him he'd never been on a Fireblade before, and I said, look, when you get on that bike, obviously you need to take it easy, you need to take it careful, but you will recognise very, very quickly how easy it is to ride. I mean, I'm doing like slow speeds now, and I'm really, really comfortable. The bike isn't snatchy, it's not grabby. I can just roll the throttle on gently, and it doesn't buck me around like it would on an old-fashioned Ducati or something like that. It's not snatchy in the sense that it's not on-off like potentially some fly-by-wire throttle bikes that where with the fly-by-wire throttle, where you don't have the feel of a throttle cable. I don't mind fly-by-wire throttle, it is what it is, but you definitely, if you're used to riding an analog sports bike with a good old-fashioned throttle cable, and then you jump on something like a BMW S1000rr that's got fly-by-wire, then you will notice it will feel different. I test rode an S1000rr about 2 years ago for the first time, and I felt a little bit detached from the bike. Whereas this, I feel part of the bike. The throttle and the cable, it's doing exactly what I want it to do when I want it to do it. So yeah, it is. And I was talking about the weight earlier, like 210 kilograms there or thereabouts wet, but I mean, it is so flickable and so nimble that it's like riding a 600. And most modern sports bikes, well, most modern litre bikes these days are you know, as light as the 600s used to be. Older 600s, of course. Now, what are the downsides? So it's probably worth mentioning some. I've mentioned loads of pros. I've told you why I love the bike. It is only fair of me to talk about some downsides. So Honda, like I said earlier, were really late to the party in fitting quick shifters. I mean, I think it was 2009 or 2010 when the BMW S1K came out, you know, it had a quick shifter as standard. I'm not sure when Kawasaki fitted it to their ZX10. I think it was a little bit later than that, maybe, I don't know, 14, 15. And I think Honda, don't quote me on this, but I think the Fireblade only got a quick shifter as standard from 2017. Now, I don't mind that. I don't need a quick shifter. I don't, you know, I'm not craving a quick shifter. I'm not going to go spend 400 or 500 quid on a quick shifter when I don't need it. And but if you want a quick shifter, then obviously that's something to bear in mind. If you want that technology, then you can still buy this blade, but you're going to have to spend a fair bit of money putting some aftermarket parts on there. It's still got an old-fashioned LCD dash, or a mix of analog and LCD. Sometimes on some bikes I do actually really like the look of the TFT dash. I think they look smart. But not when they get too big and stupid. Like on some bikes, it's like having a laptop in front of you. And so yeah, so Honda were quite late to the party with that. So that might be a downside. Another downside is that traditionally this age of Fireblade is known for burning through a little bit more oil than other bikes. So I get through somewhere between half a litre and a litre of oil every sort of 1,000 miles. So I do have to sort of check and top up my oil regularly. But I mean, I don't see that as a downside myself. It's not so much of an inconvenience. It's just something you have to keep an eye on. Yes, it would be nice not to have to do that so often, but I think the advantage of that is it causes you to pay attention to the bike. It causes you to be mindful and keep on top of maintenance, right? And what are the downsides? Do you know, I'm really struggling to find any other downsides, apart from maybe the performance in comparison to some of its competitors. When the Fireblade first sort of became really popular, as far as I was aware, I mean, the Fireblades of the late 90s, they broke the mold. And then again from about 2003 onwards, the Fireblade with the underseat exhaust, superb, became really, really popular. I think performance wise they were rated quite highly back then. And then over the following years, because Honda were slow to develop the technology on their bikes and other manufacturers were more flush with technology, then the performance suffered a little bit, and things like the R1 of 2009 sort of caused a storm. You know, the ZX10s and so on, they all started to outperform in the group tests. But bear in mind, when journalists do those group tests, you know, they are really, really picky for a good reason, as you would expect. So in summary, folks, my overall thoughts are that the Fireblade is a beautiful machine. It inspires a lot of confidence. It's easy to ride. It looks amazing in the Repsol livery. It sounds fantastic with this cam that I've got on. And apart from those one or two little disadvantages, I would highly recommend anybody at least has a go on one of these. And if you're thinking of buying one, don't hesitate. You will love it, you know. It is a really beautiful, smooth, predictable, manageable litre bike that, like I said, will bite you in the ass if you're not careful, but you can have a lot of fun with this, and I just absolutely love it. So hopefully I've not bored you to death too much, but yeah, that is the 2009 CBR1000rr.
This is how legends are made.